Okay, good morning everybody. Happy Tuesday, and thank you for joining us this morning for our digital surgery webinar, the One Person Marketing Show with Recardo Hatoum. To give you a quick introduction, digital surgery is a new platform and sort of set up for sharing some interesting insights from thought leaders and experts like Recardo. Our mission is to teach and sort of provide marketing professionals with a bit of practical knowledge and sort of expertise in the morning that you can start doing straight away. So I'm Matt, and I'm the Digital Strategy Director at Celesti. And for today's webinar, we're joined by Ricardo's Head of Marketing at Quod Financial. If you have any questions during the talk, please do pop them in the Q&A tab below, and we'll answer these at the end. Presentation will probably go on for about half an hour, 35 minutes. And then obviously we'll have the opportunity to ask a few questions and queries and sort of take things from there. So without further ado, I will pass things on to you, Ricardo. I hope you should be able to share your screen.
Thanks, Matt. It's such a pleasure to be here. Let me take that screen and we'll get cracking on. Perfect. So welcome, everybody. Thank you a lot for joining. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. And people from the States, thank you. Thank you for joining. I know it's quite early for you guys. So it's a true pleasure to be here. And to be frank, it's the first time I ever do something like this. So there's a lot to share. I have a lot of ideas, and thanks for Matt, Celesti Digital Surgery, and Rachel for kind of helping me through this. So the one-person marketing show, I know it sounds very tempting. And for the past 6 to 7 months, ever since I joined Quod Financial in September of 2020, I've been calling myself that. There's a lot of background story to that. We're going to go through piece by piece of how that came about and what really is the point and in the background behind this. But yeah, let's get cracking before we kind of go into the details of my story of how I came to where I am and how this topic came out and what we're going to talk about. Let's just go through the agenda. We're going to talk through developing a content strategy, right? There's a huge issue with people knowing what to do for the year. We'll go in a little bit more detail about that. We'll then walk through about excelling in your research. I'm going to be walking you down through SEMrush. That's the tool that I use for everything: content, keyword, paid search, all of that. And then we're going to go into maximizing your opportunities with, I'm being goosebumps when I say this word, repurposing content. There's a lot of things that you can do with this. And we're going to walk through use cases. We're going to walk through examples. There's hundreds of it. Let's walk through a few of them, see if we can, remind people the importance of repurposing content. And then closing remarks. If we have a little bit of time, we'll talk a little bit about the data that you should look at instead of vanity metrics. Let's look really deep into those goals and conversions. I don't know if you've watched this one yet. If you've not, it's either you have a very bad taste in movies, or you're just, you're way too old to kind of watch this kind of funny movie. Are We Done Yet? And this is one of the classic sequels of Are We There Yet? Where Ice Cube has a family. They move into a new house. Before I go into more details, I just want to go through a short video. I'm not going to stop sharing. I know how to get out of this. Hopefully you guys could hear it. Let's go.
Hey, Ricardo, I'm not sure if it's the same for everyone else, but I'm not getting the sound through. So
oh, is it not through? Oh, I'm really sorry. Okay.
It might just need a bit of a voiceover from you, that's all.
That's fine. I can try to imitate his voice, but that's fine. What he's basically saying is he's the person who sold him the house. He's the person who is contracting the house, fixing it. He's the person who helps deliver the baby. And he's the person who's a policeman, accountant. So he does a lot of jobs. And throughout the movie, Ice Cube, you can see his face every time. He's giving him that look. And he's like, what are you doing? Who are you? And he's always grumpy. And the resemblance there, and I could always think about that, is when you're a one-person marketing show and when you're trying to do something, we want you to view marketing strategically. If I work in this SEO department, if I work in the paid search department, if I work even in the content department, I need to understand what's going on around me. Don't put yourself in a situation in one box and say, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to ignore everybody else. They know what they're doing. You need to get involved and connect with the leaders, right? The leaders don't have that time, and they're probably going to be the Ice Cube in this situation. If you go up to them and say, hey, let's have a conversation. I want to know what's going on in the market. I want to know what's next for this company. I want to align my objectives to the company objectives. Stop the siloed work. I mean, view marketing holistically. When I was at Refinitiv, I was a digital strategist. I was really dealing with one sector, which was wealth management. But I went across to say, I want to work on the weekends to manage paid search accounts. I want to work with my really close mentors. Shout out to Josh Mandelowitz and Aaron Barefoot, who taught me everything about SEO. I was getting involved with, all these SEO campaigns, and I was trying to learn, okay, how do we use the tools? How do we view SEO as a category to reach to where we want to get to? We're creating good quality content, but if people can't find it, what's really the purpose? So as I moved to Quod Financial, and that's the story where this one-person marketing show came across. I came in the company, they were looking for someone to digitally transform what they do. They were trying to, give themselves an edge. They wanted to do something a little bit different. They were never really engaged in marketing. And they said, hey, we'll get somebody. We had a conversation, everything kicked on well. As I came into the company, realized resources were limited, and I mean limited. We were going through projects. People were working overnight. I didn't have any team yet. I was the only person in the marketing team. So I was able to gather all these bits of information with time to create an entire strategy. But the holy grail, the king and queen of everything marketing is content. And that's what we're really going to walk through today. How to come up with a content strategy, how to use that content strategy to feed everything else that you do throughout the year from other departments, even if you're alone, even if you do have a team. If you understand how to do it perfectly, you can work with everybody. That conversation is consistent. Now you have a story to tell and everybody's on the same line. Now, there's a few challenges that I went through personally, and I've spoken to a lot of friends who started new jobs as marketing people or people who also were heading their own departments. And I realized there was a consistent amount of things that people found difficult. A good friend of mine came to me a few months back and said, Ricardo, you've gone through this. What is one thing that I need to know about social media quickly? And I said, your social media strategy is not defined from your social media strategy. It's the content strategy that feeds into your social media strategy. Everything that you do beforehand then helps streamline everything after that, whether that's social media, whether that's website redesign, whether that's even rebrand. The look and feel of your website, believe it or not, is from when you start developing your content strategy. So we're going to look into the challenges of content calendar. Some people know what they're doing next week. Some people know what they're doing a month ahead. Do you really know what you're doing for the entire year? If you do, you're in a very good place. We're going to see how we're going to do that and why it's really beneficial. Sometimes I see it, I've fallen in the pit hole, in the barrier of that, saying, I think this topic will work. We'll see. We'll pull it out, see if people like it or not, see how many likes we get, how many shares we get, and we'll just flip a coin. That's wrong. It's a challenge. We have very, very limited resources. I went back to the point saying, people were telling me we had to work overnight. All these subject matter experts were fully focused on their clients. Nobody was able to give me time. And I work in the kind of the fintech space. So we help traders, banks, and brokers. There's a lot of terminologies right there that at the beginning, I'm like, do I cry now? I don't know what to do. I need some help. But we did lack the resources. And I looked at kind of their benchmarks and what they did before. They were pulling out content that was disparate, that was just by itself, did nothing else, put it out there, did one email campaign, one social media post, that was it, left to die. And then the last part, the biggest challenge, was also, we don't know what works for us. We're just going to keep producing that bits of content. We don't know if blogs work. We don't know if videos work. We don't even know what webinars work. We're just going to keep producing them because that's what we need to do as marketers. That's all wrong. We're going to walk through a bit of a process of how to get that done. Well, welcome again to the one-person marketing show. These laps come from months and months of work and a lot of hours of doing, just speaking to yourself. And if people see these poster notes, that's how we can get crazy. That's just you going cuckoo. Anyways, before we go next, let's walk you through one of my favorite tools. And I'm not being biased. It's not promoted. We're not trying to say anything here, but SEMrush. These people are fantastic. They know what they're doing. You have other platforms as well, other tools. They work just as good. I've learned on SEMrush. That's where I've kind of headed through. There's a lot of features there. And I know it can be overwhelming. I have a friend who's also started. She's like, what do I look at? Where do I go? Well, you can look at each and every one of them. That's what I said. And she was like, really? Is that real advice? But for today, and kind of the purpose of going into creating a content calendar or creating content that is good quality, that matches to your personas, we're going to look at a few things. Keyword manager, keyword magic tool, and most importantly, competitive research. as I said before, I didn't have anybody to help me. And I went through, I said, I just need you guys to give me a little bit about what our products do, what our markets need. They're Ricardo, really sorry. 2020 has been crazy. We want you just to hold off till 2021. But I was adamant. There's no way in everything good that I'm going to wait for 2021, put myself at risk. So I'm going to go through things by myself. Just before we kind of go through this, we were targeting a keyword called order management system. That's one of our one of our products. And I came into Google to see what is ranking, what's going on. Google says it all. It knows what's going on. It's showing you intent. If you realize and you walk through, it's actually talking nothing about trading technologies. It's talking about inventory. It's talking about, you can see here, suppliers. I was like, we were targeting this keyword and it actually has no impact on us. Anyways, the point is, I realized that I need to look further. That keyword didn't help me at all and didn't know where to start. So the best thing you can do, and especially if you're starting off and you don't know where to start, I think the best thing you can do, go into this competitive research dashboard, go into your keyword gap, and start plugging in your competitors. Now, it's not a competitors, but I'm going to say Refinitiv are our partners. That's the company I came from. And I'm just going to use them as a big excuse to being partners. Sorry, you guys, I'm going to take you out. And then I'm going to say, compare them to one of our real competitors and say Itiviti. Now, the biggest thing you can look for your shared keywords. That's good. See what they're ranking for, what they're working for. That's all good. You can also kind of filter here. I'm going to go to advanced filters, exclude some of these keyword difficulties that are greater than 70. I don't think I can rank for these keywords. They're very heavily integrated. There's a lot of people kind of tackling them. It's quite hard to reach. So we're going to go into these details. People called me crazy, right? I'm going to say that for sure, because it took me a lot of time. There's faster ways to do it. However, if you look at the untapped section, go through each and every keyword, see what your competitors are ranking for. We have like 7 of them. Put them all, how much the limit is. Put all of them and start comparing. Look at what keywords they're ranking for that you don't. OMS system. I'm going to put this, click it, go into the keyword manager and save it. I'm going to keep looking at that. OMS software, fixed engine. All of these are keywords, are topics that I never really knew existed because nobody was able to tell me about it. Keep looking at each and every one of them. It's going to take some time. I know that's for sure. It's going to drive you crazy. There are sure faster ways to do it, but I felt I needed to understand what was going on. What am I missing? What is something I can tap on? It's a very niche segment. And for the keywords that I found, I'm like, if that's for the niche, I can only imagine when you have big industries that have a lot of keywords that you can go for. So start looking, start plugging them in. You can then go into Keyword Manager. As I said, go back up. Where is it? Here. And then you pile them, you segment them, say everything that is about trading, everything is about fixed income. I want to go a little bit more granular. TCA, that's a product for us. They found 24 keywords talking about TCA, which is transaction cost analysis. You might find 100 keywords that talk about SEO, paid search, something relevant to your industry. But the most important part, when you're done with all of this, I know it's a lot, it sounds crazy, I'm still with you, but I did that and it helped me a lot. And I go back and I said, okay, I'm going to look at smart order routing. What am I really getting out of this? And then you see a pile of keywords. Now, there's one thing I want to go back to before we get into this detail. And that's one of the most important. If you've not heard it 100 times, this will be the 101st time, genuinely. Look at your customer intent. What are people looking for? There's great tools like search metrics that help you identify that, but sometimes you don't really have the resources or the money to pay a lot for these tools. Understand informational and transactional. Know these, and you're halfway across doing a really good keyword strategy and helping you then feed into your content strategy. Informational, basically, people are looking for information. We don't want to buy, we just want to see what's going on. Are there any problems? Are there any solutions? Is there anything I know of? There's something I don't know of. Transactional, you know what? I want to do something. I want to be wild. I want to buy something. I want to submit a form. I want to get to speak to someone, submit a demo. And it's very important that you know the distinction between both. One way to identify, again, look at Google. We're going back into SEMrush, and I'm saying, okay, smart order routing. I think that's a really good keyword, but it's not only the keywords I want to find to put on the website as product. Again, we're talking about filtering that content strategy. So I want to come up with informational stuff. I want to be a thought leader in the industry where people look at me and say, wow, I never knew that was possible. I never knew this was a thing. I never knew this was a problem. And so that's where you want to place yourself. Because with time, people then put you in the back of their heads and they say, these people are fantastic. When I need something, when I'm ready to buy, I know where to go to. We're going to come here, say smart order routing. I'm going to look here and say, okay, product, product, maybe product. So, okay, this is clearly a transactional intent. So I know for this keyword, I'm going to go to my website, create a product page, and then do some content about that. That's perfect, right? But let's look for other stuff. And what's really interesting here, where you look at smart order routing algorithmic trading. I'm going to try to write this one. Typing. And you kind of realize here that more often than not, you see people producing content that are informational. Blogs, uploads, PDFs, white papers. There are some transactional intent, but you can realize that the biggest one is informational. So people are looking for stuff like that. Now, what this eventually leads to, and nobody freak out, right? Get ready for this. I'm going to find it first. I'm going to show you what this led to me. And when my manager saw it, he's like, what on earth? So we're going to go in here. You're going to come up with lists. Forget the colors. I color code stuff, even though I'm colorblind. Anyways, you're going to come up with a list of keywords. And you're going to put the intent because you've researched for them. You have transactional, you have informational. You can kind of say, okay, content type, I want to put this product page. This would be a good blog. This could be a good white paper. This could be a good webinar definition. And you're gathering each and every information. What's the search volume? What's the keyword difficulty? Very big emphasis on this one. If it's really high and you're getting started, it's probably not the right keyword for you. But if it's kind of low, 57 is quite moderate, right? It has CPC, so it's commercial intent. So that's kind of the cost per click from a paid search perspective. I think smart order routing is a great example for a product page keyword. But I go into here and I said, smart order routing algorithmic trading is a great informational keyword. So before I do anything, and I think this is where people lack a little bit and what's something I've done, please go in and read the first or all the articles that are relevant to your industry. For example, A-Team Insight, these people are third media parties that provide content about kind of everything that we do. Trading, tools, to your smart order routing post MiFID, that was a new regulation. The first 2 SERP pages, go in, right click, and read each and every one of them. Now, the purpose why I say this, mind you, I work in a very difficult industry. And part of the reason why I wanted to do this, because I wanted to understand, in addition to the persona research that I did, I talked to the consumers, I talked to some of the people within the industry saying, hey, what is something that we want to know about? And they start to say, this is their problems, this is their solutions, all great, but how do you put it into context? When you start to read stuff, you realize there's bits and pieces here and there that people look at and people say that you can capitalize on. Giving you an example, somebody said that one of the biggest challenges that traders have is their fear of getting automation wrong. It was somebody who said that, a trader who said that, and clicked an idea in my mind saying, how can I create a topic? Maybe a blog, maybe a webinar, maybe I can get partners, maybe I can partner up with a third media provider. We're talking about A-Team Insights, maybe Financial Times, to say, these are the things you can do to avoid getting automation wrong within your platform. People are going to be interested because they're saying their word about that. That's something that they helps them, wake up at night, be like, oh, what if something goes wrong tomorrow? You're helping ease that. And that would makes you a really good provider. That would makes you a really good content marketer because you're providing those solutions to the people. But let's take it a little bit further, right? We've come up with all these topics. We've come up with all these keywords. We've come in, we found a lot of them. We're going back into this topic list here where we're saying, okay, we have SOAR, we have TCA, we have EMS, we have, market connectivity. All these are stuff that I figured out. Nobody said anything to me. I figured them out by myself, all by reading, all by discovering stuff by myself. Let's go back here a little bit. We've come up with this programs, what I call, right? We talked about TCA, these are our products, smart order routing, algorithmic trading. And then I said, okay, how do I group these? I started to read a little bit more, piece things together. I came with questions to the ALT team when I had like 5 to 10 minutes when they're having coffee. I'll just jump by them and freak them out and say, quick question, what does this mean? I realized there was a consistent theme between all of these. And that was, for us, the future of automation. Simplify it a little bit more. This could be the future of digital marketing. And you're talking about SEO, paid search, content marketing. You can do other themes. And you can see consistently you're developing these ideas. You have notes from what you've read from other articles and what the conversation is happening and kind of the gaps that are not there that you can touch upon. And now that you have like 3 to 4 themes. Every theme could be a month. Every theme could be a quarter. Every theme could be half a month. A theme could be the entire year. I've seen back in the days of Refinitiv, they did the future of trading as a theme, and that was consistent across the entire year. And they kept generating content around that. It was endless. It was remarkable. I loved it. We're going to go through examples of what they did, and we'll see how great that is. But I came across to say, okay, I now know what's going on. I now know what's happening. What's the next thing I need to do? If I only create blogs, then I'm only getting people who are top of the funnel, maybe, right? If we're talking something that's very generic. But if I'm also doing something that's only about product pages, then not everyone's interested to buy at that moment. So I'm missing out on a lot. You need to have your theme. What's the sub-themes, which I call the programs? What's the buyer journey, right? We're used to do a push strategy. Take. Let's reverse that. Let's do a pull strategy. Let's get people to come in, consume the content they think they're ready to consume. Because no matter who tells you we know which stage of the journey someone is, that's more BS. Nobody knows. We can only assume and guess stuff. Somebody might submit a form and consider he's ready to buy, and this guy doesn't even know what he's doing. He's a student. And you might say, yeah, everyone's happy. He's not relevant. So to consider this, and I'll show you, I'll tell you why later why this is a gap, but to kind of show you what's really important. Boom. If this is confusing, I'm gonna give you a second to digest it. At every stage of the journey, there needs to be a piece of content that is relevant. I've highlighted some of the most common ones I've come across with. In the interest and exposure, we talked about the smart order routing, algorithmic trading. I'm gonna write a blog about the next trends, right? And I'm going to use that keyword because I know it's going to rank. I'm going to do my SEO right, the on-page, the technical. I'm going to try to get some backlinks to it, all that great stuff. But when I go into the evaluation stage, I'm even going to go a little bit more and say, I want to do an ebook, maybe a report. I want to team up with the Financial Times and say, hey, I'm going to do a report and provide some data. And I'm going to talk about a little bit the advantage of that. I'm going to do some roundtables, some webinars even. Webinar talking about, hey, this is what you should do in order to be able to excel with trading. And purchase, we talked a little bit about that. Product brochures, fact sheets, case studies. People want to see, okay, you're saying you're the best in the market. Are you really the best in the market? Well, questionable, get someone to talk about that that's relevant to them. If they're brokers, get another broker to talk about how great you are. Product demo, some people are interested. That's where they call it a call to action. This is really important. You realize when we go back here, within TCA, knowing that I have different stages of the buyer journey, what this is going to lead you is to something like this. This month, I'm going to talk about TCA. This month, I'm going to talk about SEO, right? So within SEO, I know I'm going to do a section about tips and tricks, which is a blog. That's top of the funnel, interest and exposure. I'm going to do something about the best of data. So I'm going to use some data. I'm going to gather some surveys and provide people some actionable advice that is a bit relevant to my product and kind of helping people evaluate their buyer journey. It's kind of the evaluation stage. I'm going to do, a case study as well, where I do a video, one-on-one interview maybe with someone to kind of say, if he's ready to convert, this is a sample where we're really good. You realize now you're plugging things easily. At the beginning, we had no idea what was going on. Now we're plugging things fairly simply, right? I think if you do that, you're going to get to a point where, again, another surprise, don't freak out. This is kind of where we are at. This is kind of where you start with theme, topic, kind of what buckets. But you're going to get to a point where you're going to get this granular. It's not this is a living Bible where you say, oh, you know what, I should do this. You might have a million ways. This is how I figured out my way. Theme, the very broad one. I want to talk about TCA. I read some stuff. I did my persona research, realized some of the challenges, did my keyword research, realized these are the informational ones. These are the ones I could do a little bit more topics that are non-product related. And I said, you know what, I think someone said, it's very important that we know about recommendations and how to visualize stuff. And I said, okay, I'm going to use this keyword. This is the topic. It's a tips and tricks blog, tips and tricks blog. That needs to be, I'm going to do it consideration. I'm going to change a little bit to provide more about my product. But look at all of these. That's one theme, one topic. And I'm able to come up with all these subtopics that either I can include in a big piece, I can separate in smaller pieces, I can do a webinar about. That's just one piece. Imagine we have like 12 products. That's an entire content calendar for a year. I came from understanding nothing, absolutely nothing. I was sitting down, just putting my hands in my head saying, no one's helping me. I don't know what to do. You have to read. You have to do your keyword research. You have to engage with your personas, talk to your clients. All this is going to come out of that. And then eventually, the love and the baby of my life, you're going to know what you're going to promote. Each and every one of them, your proposition, what content type, what channels. Are you going to promote it? Are you going to put some money? You're going to put it in your newsletter. It's going to give you granularity. One day after the other, you're going to get to this. People said, wow, this is amazing. I'm like, trust me, it took some work. It's not a one-day thing. I went to my manager and my CEO after doing all of this, and I had like 50 topics. I want to do all of this. He looked at me, he's like, are you okay? You good? I'm like, yeah, I'm great. Why? And he's like, we're not going to be able to do all of this. We're limited. If you think we have the time, we really don't. And that's the holy grail of everything that I've learned from there on. Repurpose your freaking content. This is everything for me. And I've seen it work in Refinitiv. This is something we're working currently at Quod Financial because people don't have the time. But you know what? I put out a white paper out there and people don't really, they don't have the time and they're just going to miss it out. I put one post, I put some email, and people don't really get it. I've missed that opportunity to get people on board. What do? You repurpose your content. 3 questions you always ask. When I produce something, can I take a unique angle on it? Can I create other content from it? What's the additional work? They're saying we don't have time. So we produce this piece of content. We don't know what else to do. Okay, I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to use this, leverage what we have, and provide a little bit more of a conversation. Maybe take a different angle to it. That's going to help you produce more content. It's going to help engage that conversation. More importantly, you can have a story, something that people could say, I get what they're saying. This is the problem that they've highlighted. This is the solution, and this is what I need to do. And people start to see that resemblance. There is 600 ways, if not 6 million ways to repurpose your content, but I'm going to walk with you through 3 most important ones. So the module first, that's shout out to Turtle. They're the people who kind of introduced this, or maybe other people, but that's where I saw it from Turtle. So you kind of have a big form, right? Or maybe, you kind of have a big paper and you want to kind of split it down into small pieces. You have module second where, you know what, I'm going to come up with a white paper and I'm going to go in and say, okay, I'm going to split this white paper into different sections. I'm going to do, going back into the buyer journey, we're going to walk especially through the module second criteria to show people how that really works and how that's really being implemented from a Refinitiv perspective. We'll see other examples as well. But the module second is one of the most popular ones, and the module second is really going to help you elevate. Sometimes when you do your keyword research, and we went back up to this in the SEMrush, you have a lot of keywords, and some of them you can't really do blogs and blogs and blogs. So sometimes you want to do an SEO optimized video, and then you can use that because you're breaking down that big piece into smaller pieces. We're going to see exactly how that's done. But some of the simpler formats, and I've started to do this myself, is it's kind of you have something, it already exists. We're not adding too much to the conversation, but we're adding a twist to it. I'm going to show you an example of someone who did this really well. Longitude, they're great B2B thought leadership. They belong to the Financial Times, but they help companies kind of excel at thought leadership. We might do some work with them, low-key. So they promoted and produced a webinar, which I watched. Maybe 2 weeks later, they came down. They re-promoted the webinar, but not saying, hey, watch the webinar again. They did a poll within that webinar that eventually said, 89% agree that client advocacy will become a more important outcome. And within their blurb up there, they said, see what the other 5 are. That's fantastic. I found that really amusing because in my head, I'm like, this is great. This is exactly what we should do. They're getting the traffic back again, but this time what they're doing is they're coming with a different angle. These are the easy ones. Other examples I can show. Let's go into LinkedIn, something I've done. That's my profile. Sorry, just quickly. So someone came in once and said, we're producing a report about the different things Quod Financial can do. They produced like this 50-page report about their strengths like that, and we realized that we had a lot of strengths. I was going to go back and only promote this webinar, the report, but I either came here and I said, let's summarize the points. Let's provide them data. People are very interested with data, and to show them, hey, this is why we're best in breed in the market. So you don't have to read the report. You can only know Quod Financial ranks really well for these. This is another example. Right? A third example, which I think was fantastic, especially when you're dealing with really complex stuff. I'm trying to find it because this one's taking from the screen. Come on, I'm trying to put it down. Sorry. Give me a second. And so I was watching once this webinar where someone was talking about, hey, we've done this really, really difficult report. It's very technical, but we want to engage a little bit more with the audience. What can we do? And they've produced a very technical document. They've refurbished it. They've repurposed it into a video. And this is what they came up with. I know there's no audio. Sorry about that. But just look at what they came up with. I think the words are enough. Great. Now it's lagging. you can realize they've summarized some of the data points and some of the highlights to say eventually then download. They've repurposed it to a video to re-engage people. And that's the really fantastic part about repurposing content. Just going back into here, I know we're not doing that, but I talked to you about a white paper, right? We went through this section and said, this is another theme. We want to talk about the automation of fixed income. I'll talk about automation in search engine optimization. I don't know, something like that. And I've done this white paper. I put a lot of investment into it. Am I really reaping every reward and every return on investment I can? Or maybe not? White paper promotion to all stages of the buyer journey. One piece can help you produce every single point is a possibility and a potential to produce content. I'm not saying do what the video did, just repurpose, or maybe kind of that's what's happening, just say it in a different way or a different tone. What I'm saying here is you can really provide a different edge. If you have data, you can provide a blog and then talk a little bit more about the data and give it a little bit more of an edge. If I'm talking about a section that's maybe one paragraph and I feel there's more to talk about, I can get someone from external people, maybe our customers, to say, let's add to this. Maybe I want to do another webinar to say, I want to discuss the findings and talk about the outlook to the future. And then eventually, I want to do a purchase, which is the bottom of the funnel, where people are really interested now. They know who we are. They really like the white paper, and they're ready to have that conversation with us. But you know what? If you talk to people who are C-suite, if I send them this white paper saying, read it, they're probably not going to read it. But if I print it with, say, their logo saying to HSBC, or I don't know, to Search Engine Journal, with the name of the CEO or the C-suite people, and then with a very different message to say, you know what, these are 5 things that I know you are struggling with in your business, and this is how we're going to solve it. And they're going to be like, that's remarkable. They know exactly what I'm doing. They know exactly what I'm going through. I'm going to read this white paper because I think it's relevant. Now, to provide you the real value of this, we've not done something yet at Quod, so it's kind of, we're working through our way there. But at my time at Refinitiv, they did something that was really, really good. And they showed us that different stages and different journey that people went through, and what one report, which they called the Future of Trading report, what they've done with that. I'm just going to walk you through quickly. And it's quite annoying because this is not allowing me, but let's start with this one. They've produced a white paper, they've gated it, they've gone out. I'm going to show you which part it was. No, it was here. So they're talking about the future. Actually, the report, it's gated. They're telling you a little bit about that. You can produce your details, and hey, we can start nurturing you, and that's the white paper really. But with that, they've done a million other things. They've started with an introductory video, kind of somebody talking about this is what the future of trading is going about. They kind of talk about kind of some of the data points. That's a video. And he provides, if you listen to the video as well, he provides a little bit of an angle to it to say, this is additional stuff that we realized were not talked about initially, but we're talking about them again. And we're going to add to that conversation. They've also went into third media parties, Financial Times, it's a huge one. And they've mentioned quickly, maybe to provide some interest, and they've given kind of some additional view from a Financial Times reporter. They've gone through to do a blog. Let's start to do this. This is the blog. So they've kind of talked about some of the data points, and they've added a little bit to the conversation. So you realize that's a white paper or report that they've extracted some data. They've taken the data out. They're having a different conversation. But eventually what they're really trying to do is they're leading you back to their cliffhanger. They're leading you back to that report that we saw earlier that says, hey, this is fantastic. This is what you need to read. You need to download now. You need to engage that conversation with us. Right? So we talk about going back into here. They've released a blog. I'm getting tired. Blog. They've released a video. They also have the white paper or the report that you call it. They have the landing page. They did a webinar as well. So let's go with this one. You kind of just on the webinar. It's an on-demand webinar before it goes live, and they're kind of talking about other stuff. Again, realize every stage of the journey there's a piece of content. Then they go here. Now this is an entirely different conversation. It's another webinar, but they've used something from that report to create more content. It's a conversation that's ongoing. It's never ending. I'm telling you, it's remarkable. When you start to do that, you'll see. This is another example. I'm just going to do this because it's annoying. Yeah, that's perfectly it. But you could see going back into this, that's one investment can lead you to 13 pieces of content. And then you will never, ever be able to go back to your company and say, we don't have enough resources, we don't have enough content. Now, the questions that we asked before say, you know what, there's a lot happening there. We don't really have resources. We can't give you much time. But it's different than coming to a person and say, let's invent something new, than telling them, let's actually do something that exists and just add a little bit of a twist to it. People are now engaged. People are now interested in that. Final piece, the end result is, again, showing you, you can do all of these just from one piece of content. And that's the power of repurposing content. I'm telling you, it's remarkable. And the one person marketing show alludes to you developing the keyword strategy, knowing what topics you want to talk about, getting involved with writing, getting involved with knowing, you know, some keywords are very difficult to rank for, so I'm going to run a paid search campaign. But because I know what people are struggling and what they care about, the content, when a person clicks on that ad and gets on the landing page, the content on that is going to be so remarkable. It's going to be exactly what he's looking for. It's going to speak directly to his pain points and the solutions he's looking for. So it's all one piece. And you no longer have to only focus on one segment or one department. You can engage in also running digital ads. I'm going to go here quickly and then just going to go to traffic analytics. I'm going to put something like, oh, sorry, I'm not really a competitor, but I'm just going to show you. When you're doing your keyword research, you can go down here and see the traffic journey. I realize that some people post reading Financial Times, or not, these people are media partners. They go in and they go into Facebook, they go into Google, they go into LinkedIn. That gives you an indication, maybe I should run Facebook ads or retarget or remarket people there. And similar to LinkedIn, maybe I should be very careful to what I rank for in Google and make sure that I'm ranking on the top SERPs, top 5, top 3, or maybe even running the right Google ads or paid search campaigns, because people are using that journey. They're coming in, reading a source about trading, what's going on in trading, and then you're providing irrelevant information. So people are interested. Now, that is truly a one-person marketing show. You're doing everything. You're also producing the videos because you know exactly what to say. You're also producing the rebrand, because sometimes you have to put a relevancy to this product does this one, this thing. It does this entire solution. I understand it. So the graphics for that is going to match that story. It's not going to be something that's random. It's going to match it. There's going to be a storyline. So a person sees it, it's going to read it, he's going to think it's remarkable. He has a lot of options. I'm not ready to buy yet, so I'm going to engage with your blog. I'm ready to download, give you my information. I'm going to download that report. But you know what? I'm really interested. I'm going to go down and read your fact sheet. I'm going to see what case studies you guys have. And then I'm going to submit a form and I'm ready to buy. That's 36 minutes of me talking and talking and talking. There's a lot of information. Again, thank you all for listening, for staying in. I'm very happy to take on any questions. And just FYI, I'll probably share my information after this. If you guys have any other question you want to follow up with, I'm more than happy to have a conversation. If you think something I said was wrong, you know, you can teach me. It's all a learning curve. So thanks all for joining. Thanks, Matt. Up to you.
Thank you very much indeed, mate. That was really good. Thanks a lot. I don't think we've had any questions come in through the Q&A yet. So guys, if you've got any, please do drop them in the chat or in the Q&A. I suppose one from me, which I guess I'd just be quite interested in generally, would be, you know, if there's clearly loads of stuff in there which people need to action, but if you were just kind of starting on that journey as a business or as a marketing team or person, well, what would you say would be like the most sort of important first couple of steps to do?
The first step, download a keyword tool, SEMrush or anybody, and start your keyword research. I think that's the biggest important step, because no matter how good your product is, no matter how good your content is, if people can't find it, if there's no pathway, and I learned that from one of my mentors, Aaron, again, shout out to you. He said, if there's no path to that, then people aren't going to find it, right? The first thing you need to know is, oh, actually, I'll change that a little bit. The second step is do your keyword research. The first step, go understand what your personas really need. Do your persona research. Understand what your customers really want. What are they going through? What are their pain points? Something that keeps you up at night. For me, something that keeps me up at night maybe is like, oh, how many lead gen we get, because the company needs to have engagement and conversations. If someone comes into me and said, I'm going to help you improve your lead gen by 50%, that's great. But if someone comes in and said, hey, I just want to have a conversation with you, I'm not interested. You're not giving me something I really care about. So do your persona research, understand what they need, understand the goals, the objectives, the pain points, the solutions that they're looking for, even understand how they phrase things. Because how they say things is something that you will then reverse and reflect on your content. It's all related. Then go do your keyword research and then go through the steps one by one.
Excellent, thanks a lot. And I suppose when you're looking at, and you kind of covered this a little bit, I think, at the start anyway, but when you're looking at that keyword research, you know, how do you decide? Are you looking, obviously you're looking at the intent, but do you tend to look at a mixture of sort of broader and then more kind of specific longer tail keywords, or what's your sort of approach to that?
Absolutely. I think you can take this in a million different ways, depending on your industry and depending on what you're trying to do. Something that's worked for me, because we work in a very niche industry, is I've tried to look at what keywords do I know I'm not going to win for, right? Maybe I can include these in paid search, but I started to look for long tail keywords, stuff that had a little bit less of a search volume, but they had massively less keyword difficulty to rank for. And I started to target those because I know these had very good intent, and people who were searching these long tail keywords were very interested in our product. So I'd rather go for quality than for quantity. But keyword doesn't happen overnight, right? So when you're revamping the website, you're changing your headers, you're changing your URL slugs, they don't happen overnight. They happen over 5 to 6 months sometimes. Sometimes they happen faster if you're lucky, if you're having a good industry. But yeah, always look for long-term, right? Sometimes it could be a short, quick win, but look for long-term, because that's an evergreen piece of content that's optimized that people are continuously going to land on and engage with whatever you have on that certain page.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, I don't think we've had any other questions come through. So if anyone has got a quick one, please do drop it in there. But otherwise, we'll sort of wrap things up now. So thanks a lot for attending, everybody. As I say, if you do think of any additional questions, please feel free to pop us an email, and obviously we can cover those off for you. When you leave today's event, you'll be directed to a feedback form. So if you're able to take a couple of minutes to complete that, that would be massively appreciated. Our next event is going to be the 5-element system for community success with guest speaker Rob Fawkes, who's the head of marketing at Standing on Giants. So hopefully we'll see you all there, and please do keep an eye out on your inbox today for an email later with the presentation slides. And then, yes, please do head over to sort of LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter to give us a follow and to keep up to date. And thank you again, Ricardo, for that presentation. That was great.
Thank you very much. Absolutely.
And thank you ever so much, everyone, for joining. And we'll hopefully see you all soon.